sort of front back until then. There is a document that I do need to read to you before this public hearing starts. This public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 890 of the Local Government Act and Section 1729 of the Agricultural Land Commission Act. The purpose of this hearing is to consider amendments to the district's official community plan that result from a review of the urban growth strategy. The amendments would be made by adopting an official community plan number 2014-002, which would replace the official community plan in its entirety. The amendments to the official community plan are numerous and potentially affect all lands in the district. The purpose of this hearing is also to consider a proposed exclusion of land from the agricultural land reserve and a proposed inclusion of land into the agricultural land reserve. During the public hearing, anyone who believes that his or her interest is affected by the proposed amendments will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Written submissions received to date are in the green binder at the entrance for public inspection and review, and staff have asked me to remind you to please do not remove any of the written submissions from the binder. All information, correspondence, petitions, and reports that have been received concerning the subject bylaw have been made available to the public. Now I would like to invite the public to come forward and present their comments. Speakers are asked to state their name and address clearly for the record. Speakers are encouraged to limit their remarks to 5 minutes and should include all of the relevant information in their presentation. Further opportunity will be afforded to all persons to speak a second or third time once all persons have had an opportunity to speak. During the public hearing, council may ask questions of staff and public, but once the public hearing is over, no new information can be received. Council debate on the bylaw will take place on Monday, April the 28th at the regular council meeting commencing at 7 p.m. in council chambers when the bylaw is considered after the conclusion of the hearing. At that time, any questions of staff should be for clarification only. I should just remind you that the meeting next Monday night will be live web, so you can bring it up on your computer, and if you have any questions on how to do that, please feel free to call our office and our staff can give you directions. The subject of this public hearing is challenging and represents a change of direction for Summerland. Council would like everyone here to feel encouraged to provide their thoughts on the issue. I would ask everyone to be respectful and to refrain from reacting to individual speakers. I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening, for this public hearing. Many of you have already heard this, so I apologize for those of you who have not met Eric. We have used moderators for several of our larger public engagements and public hearings in the past, including Summerland Hills Golf Resort, Riders Lane Mountain OCP inclusion, the Wharton Street project, and the Remand Center proposed for the South Open Avenue. Having a moderator allows us the opportunity to concentrate on taking notes. Mr. Eric Thompson lives in Summerland and has volunteered his time to run this meeting tonight. Eric has a background in television news and has moderated several political debates and community meetings on Vancouver Island and in Ontario, so he's very familiar with this process. Thank you, Eric, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. As you heard, I'm Eric Thompson. I'll be the moderator for tonight's meeting. Wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, happy birthday. And also, when you are speaking to the microphone, last time some of the folks down low here had trouble hearing people, so we'd like to remind you to speak clearly if you can, and just be aware of where the microphone is. If it's closer, sometimes it will sound like that. If you go back far, you can hear it. So the closer you can be, the better. Thank you very much. Also, we'd like to remind you that this is a statutory public hearing. Please address your comments or submissions to council, seated at the front of the room. As you know, council will not be answering any questions tonight. All comments and questions will be recorded by staff. Staff are preparing a full report for council prior to the next council meeting. And there is a speakers list over in the corner there. If you could sign up there if you'd like to speak. If you wish to speak, again, please give your name to the staff members. And that list, if you use up your 5 minutes and you want to come back again, you can go back there and sign up again. There is a light bar, which is right here. And it will show green when a speaker begins. The yellow light indicates that you have 1 minute remaining. So if you are speaking, you can see that yellow light. That will give you an indication of how much time you have left. And then the red light will be 5 minutes, and I'll be asking speakers to conclude their comments after 5 minutes when the red light comes on. Everybody okay with that? And you are welcome, as I mentioned, to speak a second or third time for 5 minutes at a time. Council has advised me that they would like to hear from everyone who wishes to speak tonight. And as you heard from the mayor, in order for everyone to feel welcome and comfortable, we would ask that you can refrain from clapping, heckling, or any other vocal expressions of approval or disapproval. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. All right. So last time, as you may recall, we asked people to state their name for the record, and that basically means that their name is on the record because this information, of course, is on the public record. And our first speaker will be George Lurch from Garnet Valley Road, and next up after George will be David Williams. So George Lurch is up first from Garnet Valley Road. Go ahead, please, George.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Closer to the mic. So somebody really shorter than I am. I've got a written submission that I made as well, and I thought I would just give a very brief summary of the comments here, and then perhaps add another dimension conversation about this. I live on Garnet Valley Road, 2411, and my surname is spelled L-E-R-C. Yes. I've been in Summerland since 2002. I have previous careers, one of which was as an economist, and I taught at universities with one as well. My knee-jerk reaction to seeing this proposal come forward was to be against it, because I am a farmer, and I don't believe that you sacrifice farmland to work for that residential. Right. But then I thought, this is way too easy to do that. Just having a reaction like that is way too easy. So what I did is I assembled and analyzed all the information that had been used by the council, the mayor and council, in making this decision. I was assuming that the information would be shared with the public was all the information. And I looked at it, and I then went back and looked at the source documents. I went to BC Stats, went back 10 years, looking at various trends and things like that. I went back to the documents that had been used to develop the growth model and use the proposed amendment. Beautiful strategy.
Could you move closer to the mic? It's difficult.
Thank you for that. So I looked at the various source documents, and then I asked myself, because I know that even though the law is not that specific, that there's every elected official is supposed to make decisions based on what a reasonable person would do. In other words, without prejudice, without being capricious, without being vindictive or malicious, it has to be reasonable. So I read all of this stuff, and I looked at it and I said, would a reasonable person conclude that what we need to do is remove these lands from the ALAR, do the switch, in order to have additional housing? And my conclusion was no. So as a reasonable person, with the training that I have, I looked at that and I said, a reasonable person would not reach this conclusion. And there's a lot of details and very technical information. I don't want to bore everybody by reading all these numbers and stuff like that. But primarily it deals with the growth strategy. The whole growth model that we developed is bogus. It's described as one short 5-letter word. It was incorrect. It's based on a 9-year-old model that was first published in January 2005, and it was forecast the growth of the regional district of Oakland. That model has only been, if you work back through that model, it has only correctly predicted the growth in the regional district once in 9 years. That wasn't even correct, it was just very close. All the other years it was completely wrong. However, when you're developing your growth forecast for Summerland, you use that model the way it was presented. Now, just a couple of little statistics to prove my point. There's more details, but I won't go into it. We predicted 9% growth between 2005 and 2013. The actual growth was 2%, just a little So I broke out summer land. Population growth for summer land during that same period was 3.1%, and instead of the predicted 9%. The population actually fell between 2008 and 2013. If you use that 5-year set, the population declined. Okay, so that's the part of the growth. There's more in the right part that we don't need. When we get into other things like, the talk about the tax base, how does it have, affordable housing and all this sort of stuff. When I look at the same statistics, what I see is that between 2008 and 2013, there were 259 new housing units started in the district of Summerlin. And the population fell by 57%, or 57%, sorry.
Mr. Lerner, we're going to ask you to wrap up. Your 5 minutes is coming to an end.
Why did I go fast?
I don't know. You can sign up there if you'd like to come back and speak, though. And also, I'd like to remind everyone, if you are at a microphone and you'd like to adjust it, this little one here, will make it go up or down. But we'll have to ask you to come back again if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I didn't get through the rest of all the numbers. Thank you.
All right. And next up, our next speaker is David Williams from Woods Avenue, and standing by after that is Mark Smith. Again, up next is David Williams.
Loud enough? Well, you want it louder? Okay, thank you. Madam Mayor and councillors, I strongly urge you to hold a referendum on the proposed urban growth strategy and especially the removal of land from the ALR, coincident with the municipal elections in November. This is obviously a very controversial issue to the citizens of Summerlin. I'd like to draw your attention to 2 or 3 things that happened recently. The City of Vancouver recently decided to hold a referendum on whether to continue keeping belugas and other mammals in captivity in the Vancouver Aquarium. And this will take place coincident with their municipal elections in November. I suggest that the urban growth strategy and the removal of land from ALR is at least as important to the citizens of Summerlin as keeping belugas in captivity is to the citizens of Vancouver. 10 days ago, Kitimat Council held a plebiscite to decide whether to endorse the Enbridge's Northern Gateway pipeline and the related tanker traffic that would be associated with it. The cost of that plebiscite was $15,000 to the city of Kitimat. A few months ago, when this issue first became prominent, the editor of the Penticton Herald suggested that the simplest solution would be for Summerlin Council to hold a referendum in conjunction with the municipal elections. Other people I know at the previous hearing have suggested the same thing. Madam Mayor, you said that a referendum question on growth, quote, would not be appropriate. If you look at the public turnout tonight and the turnout that we have had at the last 2 meetings, if you look at the size of the petition that you have received, and you see what other municipalities are doing and holding referendum, then I would say that looking at that evidence, it is very appropriate to hold a referendum in November. Madam Mayor, you have stated that councillors can and do change their minds. I suggest to you that these changes to the official community plan and removal of land from the ALR is a situation where you would be very wise to change your minds. in conclusion, again, I strongly urge you to hold a referendum on this issue coincident with the upcoming municipal elections. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mark Smith from Adams Avenue, and on deck, Mike Pollard. Mark Smith, go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me? My name is Mark Smith. I live at 11210 Adams Avenue. I've attended both the public hearings. I'm against the proposal. I'm very confused on some of the things. I think that the winery wants to increase in size, and they want to bring a proposal to council to bring some land back into the ALR. I think that's a good idea, and we should move ahead with that as quickly as possible and do whatever is necessary, and it doesn't have to be involved in a land swap. Let's just get a winery the land it needs, that it wants, and proceed with that. We don't need to do a swap, we can just bring the land in. I don't know why that's a part of the swap. Clearly from the urban growth strategy, sustaining our current ALR is a priority. That's what I can read into it. I do appreciate the gentleman from the nursery speaking for the proposal, and I do support what he's proposing. In fact, we have if we were having a public hearing on removing the 30 or 40 acres that the greenhouse is occupying and putting, say, 60 or 80 acres into from the that's excluded, bringing it back in, I think that would be a good proposal. I would be interested to hear what people say. I don't think we have nearly as many people against the proposal. I wouldn't be happy about losing 30 or 40 acres where it is, but I would have a proposal to bring in 60 or 80 acres, and I could maybe get okay with it. The house I live in on Adams Avenue was orchard a number of years ago, and now it's residential. The reality is some of the agricultural land is going to become residential land if summer land is going to grow and lots of people want to live here. We do. The other thing I really strongly, and the reason I got involved in all this is the nursery business is a business. It doesn't love summerland. It doesn't have a home here. It didn't put kids through school. And when the land comes out of the ALR and they sell that to the developer, if that's what they choose to do, they're going to realize significant profits. And the advisors, the accountants, the lawyers for the nursery may decide that it's just better off to invest the money overseas, lay off all the workers that work here. Right? There's no vested interest to keep the business here once you have some really valuable land that's come out of the ALR. So I'm against the proposal because there's no guarantee that the nursery is going to do exactly that. Right? We should have a really good proposal to take the land out, build a new nursery in a different area, take the profits from the land sale, they can use that to invest in if that's what they want to do, and we keep those jobs, and in fact, we grow a local business. I think that would be a good proposal to have here and be worth debating. This proposal is a waste of time. I learned at the last thing that our pool is getting old, and we've looked at replacing it. I think that the kind of proposals that we need to see are a request for proposals to maybe build a new pool where the RCMP station used to be, and then that strip of land from the Main Street to the middle school, where the pool is in the middle, we can put in some high-density housing there perhaps. I would be interested in hearing a proposal about that and seeing a request for proposal. That would be something that I would support. And that's right downtown, and I'm sure the restaurants, all the businesses across Summerland has a lot of people working in Penticton, and I think a lot of us shop in Penticton and we support Penticton. But it would be really nice to see Summerland rebrand itself and we start to do some amazing things with the amazing products. We have a really thriving agricultural and agritourism businesses here.
Mr. Smith, we're going to ask you to wrap up your time's up.
Thank you. We need to improve transportation, get people from Penticton shopping here. Those are the kind of things we see. Summerland.
Mr. Smith, I'm going to ask you to wrap up. If you don't mind. Thank you so much. If you want to sign in, this timer, but it's green when it starts, you've got a minute left when it gets yellow, and when it gets red, 5 minutes is up. You're welcome to come back, and again, a reminder, please state your name and address for the record. And standing by on deck is Anita Perry. Up next is Mike Holler.
Madam Mayor, Councilors, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mike Holler, resident in Laboratory, Hollywood. This is a contentious issue. Sorry, guys. This is a contentious issue. These are big decisions. I don't know how we're doing right now. I'm sure that the 4 or 5 months until election time wouldn't hurt us. We can talk about a 50-year plan. I'm sure 4 or 5 months to make the correct decision or allow these other people to assist you in making the correct decision wouldn't influence this negatively in any way. The best thing we can do is provide both council and people with the best information available. We heard at the last meeting about the quality of soils on different properties and whether they were going to match. I got to tell you, even though I grew up here, probably around here where those other properties, crashed my motorcycle all over it, I thought I owned that property inside out. I thought I'd give it a whirl and check for myself, so I could reassure myself. So I took my quad and my shovel, and I covered almost every inch of that supposed agricultural property on top. Now I can tell you, I'm a fighter. I moved probably more topsoil off the properties than I certainly know anybody here. And I put that soils back. I know a lot about soils. If I found any class 1 soil up there, it was behind a Saskatoon bush, and I actually did this. A Saskatoon bush in a gully where the soils were picked up behind this bush, and you know what? For its area, maybe 50 square feet, there was a piece of class 1 agricultural property. The next best soil I found was at about 2,700 feet that did my GPS with. And it's on a bench. We had a big forest fire last year. That was the next best soil on that property, and today. The rest of the soils were a combination of silt and gravel. When I moved the overburden, which typically was ranged in depth from 3 inches down to almost nothing, there was no roots. There was no roots to pull this up. You know why there's no roots? There's no nutrient. There's no humus. There's no soil. There's a growing medium, and I'm sure there was enough water, fertilizer, you could make it grow on it, but that's not how you classify soils. So whatever we had for a report there, and whatever I heard last meeting, I've got to tell you from my personal opinion that it was not correct. I believe that we have to stand up and have to make a decision. Look at everybody here, the people for this and against it, and say, listen, we don't have the correct information. If we're going to make this decision, let's not believe my call. Let's get somebody in here who's actually gone and what I've just done. Someone who's degree in soil sciences who just did what I did. Now I'd like to ask if any of you who are making this decision have done what I just did. It's unlikely. But you're making a decision based on it. I'd like to touch on a few other points. We're making decisions, again, this is the information came from the last meeting. We're making decisions that are for the next 50 or more years. And we're talking about a 50-year plan. Though economically nobody can tell us, or nobody has any direct answers how this is going to influence us in the short term. I don't believe any of us here have a crystal ball, and I don't think that those that are making decisions have any more intelligence than those that sit in the bleachers. And I certainly don't believe that they are any more intelligent than our children and grandchildren and future generations who are going to be influenced by this. So I appeal to you to put more effort, take more time, and give people choices. Thank you.
Anita Perry is next, and Oscar Stratford will be up after Anita.
Members of the Council, Your Worship, ladies and gentlemen, good earthly evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to start by reminding the Council of the UN's dire predictions of famine due to arable lands becoming more scarce due to global warming. In the light of this concern and the fact that if we do want to attract more population to Summerland and grow our community, we're going to have to feed them. I propose that we not use the beautiful, fertile lands of the valley for growth. It makes no sense. Yes.
We'd like to page Marty Sylvester to the front door, please. Marty Sylvester to the front door. I understand this, please. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead,
Do I
please.
still have my 5 minutes?
Yeah. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I have an audio-visual aid here. This is soil I took today from the Washington Avenue area, and it is, I don't know if everybody can see, it is beautiful, it is dark, it is rich, it is gorgeous. I wish I had this in my garden. What I do have in my garden is this. And actually, this is not a really fair representation because I had to remove about 6 huge rocks. So, I wanted to show you, I guess, what Mike was talking about, beautiful soil versus sand. It doesn't make sense to build on this lush soil and transfer farming to the dry, dusty, and fertile land of Bathfield. I have spent 15 years in Deer Ridge trying to turn this soil into that soil. I'm not even halfway there. Even if you want to grow pigs, you still need to feed them, and the soil doesn't grow enough grass for the deer. When you look at this beautiful earth that you want to build houses on, you have to ask yourself what our grandchildren will say when they find out we sacrificed our ability to feed ourselves and our neighbors for a few quick tax dollars. They will think that we were the insane, and rightly so. Next, I would like to read a statement from my husband who was too ill to attend tonight's meeting. His suggestion is that if we want to increase the density of the center of this town, we can do so by rezoning existing properties from single to multi-family dwellings. Also, we could build on top of the existing buildings to create apartment space. This would increase the number of available living spaces and also revitalize the downtown district. It would help businesses to be more sustainable and would also create a more vibrant town. He's opposed to any plan that takes away land from agricultural use or from the wilderness. He says there are absolutely no valid reasons for that. We do not need to grow forever He feels the charm of this town as it is a small, rural town. He hopes that some brave citizens will come forward and run in the next civic election and make this grab of agricultural land an election issue. And he thanks you, and I thank you too for the opportunity to express our views.
After Mr. Stratford will be Linda David.
My name is Oscar Stable, and I live in Thompson Road. I hear so many talks about land freeze, but no solution to solve the problem. Nobody gives any solution. They just talk, if it's bad, gonna get hungry. I have no problem. It's easy to solve if people will listen. The right method. I have no problem. But here I hear, we got the farmers years ago. Some fella got elected, an income, the college band. What did he do? He took the goods from the farmers away and made us slaves. Now the people, when they want to take on a few acres, they want to prevent it. They want to make this town slaves too, and they did the farmers. That's what the real things for them. I was the first guy here when I came to Summerland. I saw right away things what should have been changed. I forecast 20 years ago that Summerland is going to go down in the grid. And that's what happens. When I came here, there was everything in here like vacation. You could have everything. You didn't have to go nowhere. Now, you only forced to go to vacation, but that's not left. Pretty soon it's going to be a ghost town if you don't do something. For instance, bullying in school, they say is a problem. It's no problem if you do something. Make them wear uniforms in school, all the kids. They're going to be proud to go to school and to be proud to belong to Summerland. Kids, 3 years old, they start the young brother. What's the problem? There is no problem. If we eliminate shop and the whole television garbage they show them killing, stabbing, all kinds of garbage. And that's what they learn. They don't learn from the parents. The parents don't do this. There is no problem actually. When I came in the 50s, I said, the garbage place is an around place. I want to look Mayor Blackburn. He said, what do you know? I said, common sense tells me that the garbage that is an around place. He said, you go back to New York Town, you let us around the town. But I said, you listen to me. You put it in writing down. But I said that. In 50 years, I say, you're going to have the biggest problem if you don't listen. It's simple, actually, simple things. Being, for instance, you say you want to run out of food. Why should we run out of food? We should control the population explosion. The problem is the population, not the food. Yet, we grow kids, send them to school, to university, and then we send them someplace overseas to you get shot. And nobody stands up and says anything. That this stupid little few acres, everybody gets excited. That makes me sick when I listen to people. Makes me really sick. You can make heaven if you want. God is will, there is a way. I mean, you folks should be ashamed to make this town a ghost town. If you don't believe me, I don't live that long.
Mr. Stratford, your time is up on the podium.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Bacon, and after Mr. Bacon will be Bart Fighting. And I apologize if I mispronounced it.
Good evening. My name is Linda Bevan, 6614 Switchback Road. I am here tonight to voice my opposition to the removal of prime ALR land in exchange for land that was removed from ALR because it was substandard. I'm basing my opposition on two things. My fundamental and unshakable belief that prime agricultural land needs to be preserved, and my belief that we need to be accountable to future generations for their food supply. Once the land is gone, it's gone. My second objection is to the process by which Council has reached this decision. In my opinion, the consultation process was flawed. In the initial consultation with 309 people, the three top priorities were growing the local economy and increasing jobs. Second was supporting our local agriculture and preserving farmland. And the third was preserving our local ecosystems. The last step in the process was an online questionnaire which was answered by 153 people, half the number who engaged in the initial discussion. It was possible, by using different computers, for the same person to fill in the questions more than once. This online questionnaire used a tool called multi-criteria analysis to get its results. In 2010, the Australian Transport Forum published a damning indictment of this kind of analysis, and I'd like to quote from that report. Multi-criteria analysis is highly subjective and potentially open to abuse through the influence of special interests. Moreover, it is seriously flawed conceptually and mathematically. At best, its continued use by public sector policy advisors and decision makers is due to ignorance. At worst, it represents gross negligence in the provision of advice and possibly breaches the Australian public service values and code of conduct. In conclusion, the final questions that were asked on the online questionnaire only allowed you to prioritize what ALR land you wanted to see removed. Had the simple question been asked, do you want to see development on non-agricultural land or on agricultural land, we probably would not be sitting here this evening. This is not about misunderstanding issues. This is not about not wanting change or development. This is about listening to people on how they want Sutherland to develop. It is a responsibility of elected officials to listen to the people who elected them. I beg you, educated and informed people are telling you here to me. Thank you.
your report? Oh. Yeah, sorry. It's spelled here F-I-E-T-N. And then standing by next will be Aaron Carlson.
All right.
I want to make a couple of remarks on the information system which was held recently. During the presentation, Mr. McIntosh presented data from 2005, which was then used to argue exec policy. Back then, the land was not very valuable to agriculture, it was taken out of PLR without putting land back in. The ALC approved. It is strange that now the claim is made that the land is not so bad after all. The claim that the swap land has equal value is a far stretch. The swap land is heterogeneous, has strong slopes, has never been farmed before, so the rocks are abundant, and organic matter content is low. The soil is sandy. A large portion has been classified. Due to the elevation, it has a higher risk of wind damage to fruit trees, and it is currently not surfaced. The right conclusion is that the swap land has limited agricultural potential. Though some land should support growers that are not restricted by poor quality soils to expand the distances to such locations. The next point I want to make is that 70% and 55% of BC's vegetables and fruit come from California. Climate change will leave California farmers up to 25% less water. A Canadian requires 0.6 acres to produce its food with the current diet. Even 5,400 acres of farmland of very low agricultural potential will keep some lands in that food imported. Based on these numbers, climate change will make agriculture more lucrative for someone. However, it should be realized that someone will have to feed BC in the world as well. Something that has not been mentioned in this discussion is that agriculture generates new money every year. This is new money flowing into the economy. On the other hand, construction will only move money around from pockets of the house buyer to the pockets of the landlord. Final point I want to make is that this council has not given an insight into the cost of the community that comes proposed OTP. While this was a major reason to choose to open this our land for development. How are the taxpayers going to be compensated for loss of value of taxpayer-owned land? How is this going to improve the financial position of some land? The cost of servicing residential areas are higher and tax money will bring in. What will it cost me of providing water and electricity to the swamp land? What indications there that increased housing supply will increase housing demand? How is this going to help downtown in the coming decades? And are the differences in servicing costs between the swamp land and development areas really that substantial that they override all the other arguments against this proposal to be? Choices with large consequences deserve data to prove the feasibility. There is no pressure to hurry, considering the current availability of land for residential development. Why not make a better balanced decision when economic projections and implications are available? Growth, and keeping our best environment not mutually exclusive, even though it's not so like to think so. All it takes is a bit more creativity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Bert. Aaron Carlson is next, and standing by after Aaron will be Don D.
Hi everyone, my name is Erin Carlson and I now live at 18601 Whitfield Road. I'm very fortunate. I have a petition update for you. Currently, we have over 3,000 signatures. 1,500 are Summerlanders, and we haven't knocked on any doors. I idea how difficult it is to farm in hillsides? Giving incentives and opportunities for land and homeowners to infill and to redevelop should be explored before we do something our children will regret one day. I understand that climate change is real, but building on farmland is not going to help reduce our carbon footprint. I understand that food security is a reality in today's society. Fortunately, I've never been hungry, and I assume you've never been hungry either. I understand soil science and soil maps. I have a science degree in agriculture from the University of Guelph. I was appalled by the attempt made at the town hall meeting to play down the quality of land, proposed for exclusion, and to play up the quality proposed for inclusion. I understand that proponents of this plan, they would like to improve our town's financial position. I have not seen the business plan that shows the expected capital revenue over the coming 50 years if this is to be implemented. I've heard that we need $500,000 per year in revenue, so let's find it some other way. I understand the need to bolster our downtown. Fortunately, there are many good ideas floating around right now, and they'll make this happen. The proposed urban growth plan, this isn't going to help in the short term. This is one of those things where we need to talk about downtown right now, and this plan isn't about downtown. I understand what a hard day's work on the farm is like, and I would like to ask that we stop speculating on our farmland. Let's encourage farming and make it more affordable for those who are keen to participate. With 7 billion people on Earth, there's never been a better time to be a farmer. I understand why we have the ALR in this province. The little farmland we have is valuable. Some of it is priceless. It is not up to 4 people to make a decision that will affect the integrity of a 40-year-old piece of legislation. I understand that there is a process to follow. I would like to ask that you respect the people of this community while we work through this process. It is time to take a step back from this proposed OCP amendment and think about what we really need to do to promote and strengthen our town. I do think it's imperative that you start listening to your community. Finally, look around you. I see neighbors, friends, associates, farmers, family. Everybody's here. I didn't stand up at the council meeting in December to start a fight. I stood up for the land on which we all rely. The last few months have been an eye-opener. I'll continue to stand up for what I believe in. When people push back, I simply look at the thousands of people who are supporting this movement and realize it is time for a change around here. I understand where this swell of people has come from, and it makes me proud to be from Summerland, and you should be too. Thank you.
My name is Don Payton, 10920 Ashland Street. By now, it's perfectly clear that you, the Municipal Council, are going to approve this land removal motion, in spite of the incredibly wide range of detailed and thoughtful objections that so many of our members of our community have put forward. I do find it profoundly disturbing that you are willing to ignore these many compelling arguments from these many concerned Summerland citizens. But I have found an upside to your intransigence, which I am now going to officially and wholeheartedly thank you for. Thank you for galvanizing this community of ours and getting us thinking about who we are and what we want. Thank you for giving us a reason to bridge the generation gap so concerned old farts like me can find common cause with 30-year-old farm-oriented Facebook junkies. Thank you for connecting the numerous people that I otherwise would not have known, who now stop me on the street to talk about the latest facts and gossip around ALR land removal. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to begin designing a real future for Summerland that involves innovation, agriculture, local food, local wine, and local arts. Thank you for reminding us what a bad trade looks like. A bad trade which is like this. I'm taking $150 from your wallet, but I'm prepared to give that $150 back if you give me $80 in exchange. Thank you for giving us the incentive to prepare and submit multiple motion briefs to the Agricultural Land Commission, effectively refuting every single argument you have put forward for this land removal. Thank you for helping us define what the word growth really means to a community and showing us that growth is more than statistics. Real community growth consists of people, ideas, and innovation. Growth is pushing the envelope. It is thinking forward instead of backward. Thank you also for reminding us about the 10 established principles of smart growth, number 7 of which is to protect agricultural land. Thank you for prompting us to look into the current Summerland real estate statistics, which reveal an overabundance of homes, lots, and acreages for sale. Thank you for pointing out how further subdivision of non-ALR land within Summerland could create dozens of more building lots. And thank you for exposing us to a flawed and predetermined public consultation process, so the next time one of these big city consulting firms comes to town to sample our opinions, we will demand a role in defining the questions and the sampling procedure. And thank you for lifting the veil and showing us the real driving force behind your version of municipal politics, which apparently is private real estate profit. Thank you again, councilors, and we'll see you in November.
I'm Heather Ross. I live at 11819 Grant Avenue. I am against the proposed withdrawal of lands, whether they are swapped for alternative lands or not. I have 7 points that I'll speak to. You claim that 2 councillors have declared conflict of interest and removed themselves from the proceedings. The declaration is superficial when one considers the contribution and influence both men have had within Summerland over many years. Their supporters inside and outside City Hall have been aware of their property interests for many years, as have many other citizens living in Summerland. This is not just a perceived conflict of interest. It is very real, and you have failed to acknowledge or properly address the depth of this issue. Your urban growth strategy is flawed and uses Orwellian doublespeak to claim smart growth. I quote directly from the Smart Growth website: Greenfield, which is undeveloped land. Greenfield development would not be consistent with smart growth if it was located on land currently within the agricultural land reserve or on a land that has been recently removed from the ALR with the intent of urbanization. That's a direct quote from the website. During the public consultation process, the public was not directly informed that Council was considering the removal or exchange of such a large swath of ALR land. If you had directly informed the public of your intent to remove land from the ALR prior to public consultation, rather than relying on an implied intent by including these lands in your options, public response would have been simpler to assess. As it stands, your entire assessment of the data is under suspicion. Trained statisticians clearly refuted your assessment. My written question from the town hall meeting was used in your recent mail-out. I asked, what research do you have to prove that expanding residential capacity will do what you wish, expand residential and business tax base? Your answer did not reflect any research whatsoever. We are hoping that additional residences will mean more people looking for services that we hope our commercial sector can provide. Hopefully, this will result in more successful businesses that will pay more commercial taxes. No data to indicate what has worked in other municipalities research to support your proposal. No proposals for enticing storefront ventures, nothing but mere hope. Future growth has to be based on rational thought, not fantasizing. The phrase affordable housing has been bandied about, but I hear nothing to convince me that landowners intend or can be legally obliged to build affordable housing on their property if it is rezoned. The two business owners permitted to speak at the town hall meeting claimed it could make a viable business on the Prairie Valley land, but did not actually commit to doing so. Theoretically, if the zoning north of Quinpool was changed, the silviculture business could profit enormously by moving elsewhere and selling their summerland property for subdivision development. Both affordable housing and future land use seem to be based on an elusive factor, hope. This is definitely not smart growth. I would like to clarify my previous comments about numbers. You claim a mandate because you had a certain number attending open houses. We had just under 3,000 people casting their votes in the last municipal election. Mayor Perino was elected by default as no one ran against her, so her vote numbers were not being revealed. The highest number of votes for a councillor was 1861, the lowest 1298. At the moment, approximately 1,500 local citizens have registered a negative response to your land swap. It is time to reconsider and direct your staff to create a new plan. Mayor Perino mentioned the failure of McDonald's restaurant. I would point to the success of Two Grains Bakery. People are moving away from the fast food. The international trend is toward locally or provincially grown foods and to businesses that process these foods into desirable healthy products.
Can we ask you to wrap up your comments, please, for 5 minutes? Let's come to an end. Actually, you know what, I'm going to ask you to wrap up just to be fair, because it's 5 minutes for everyone, and you're welcome to sign up and come back again if you don't mind,
I just
please.
make one reference to a phrase. It is clear you do not have a social license to carry out your urban growth plan.
And after Mr. Silverman is Ryan Holding, Coach Town.
Good evening. I got some written notes, but I have to say that in more personal fashion, it's really disturbing to see how everyone is pleasing the council. I had a mayor, council members, and attended Sealand 9303-05 Milne Road, which is just across from the gates to Giants Head Park. I would like to say a few words on behalf of a group of people who so far have been very quiet, those of us who for some have to retire. We come from different places, and therefore I'd like to take you on a short trip to a community that offers an interesting comparison with Summerland. This is Silver Lake, Alberta, halfway between Edmonton and Calgary. Unlike Summerland, Silver Lake's population is growing fast, 50% in 10 years, to 12,000 today. It's also very young, 23% at the age of 15 compared to 13% in Summerland. Silver Lake has a young population is growing at a rate that is faster than any community around us. Now all of us should be envious because we've been told in order to survive, we must attract young people and we must grow. So we are surprised that Silver Lake will share a problem with us. Their downtown is dying. When we moved there 15 years ago, everyone in Silver Lake did their shopping in downtown stores. But not anymore. Why? Attracted by its population growth, Silver Lake has been overtaken by the big guys. Sony's, Canadian Tire, Walmart, Sable Foods, Boston Pizza. They all have arrived and sitting at the outskirts and pulling people away from the downtown stores. Perhaps promoting growth and attracting young families may not fix our problem of empty shops and diminishing tax revenue. So what do we do? Many powerful arguments have been presented during our passionate and largely well-organized public debate. One can only conclude that council will be ill-advised to sign the OCP amendment in its current form. As someone who chose Summerland for its retirement vacation, I would like to offer one more perspective. Summerland's residential tax roll provides 79% of the district's revenue. This source of income is reliable and expandable. Much of it is provided by mature citizens who chose some land for retirement. Today's retirees make significant contributions to the well-being of the community. In addition to paying property taxes, all resident settlers bring tourist revenue by attracting family and friends. We create jobs purchasing various types of goods and services, including medical care. Many of us operate crucially important but marginally profitable businesses like bed and breakfast, touring groups, and even vineyards, without which some land would lose much of its appeal. We're deeply involved in arranging many of the cultural events that attract tourists to Summerland, and we're doing our part in keeping taxes low. Last year, 150 volunteer volunteers alone saved our community $65,000 in wages. This is equivalent to 1% reduction of our tax bill, a very significant contribution to Summerland's financial health. These are strong arguments in favor of attracting more mature citizens. In my opinion, they actually represent a profitable and sustainable industry, which some men should preserve and grow. Let's understand what it would take to do this. We need to provide hillside learning sites for those mountainous views of vineyards, orchards, and lakes. We must learn to our surroundings, preserve our farmland, and support those who look after agriculture in nature. We need to maintain and modernize the small town character of Summerland. We must cherish our volunteers, provide them with facilities and organizational support. We must foster open, informed, and constructive dialogue by sharing facts and expertise. It's all about understanding who we are as a community. Now you can build the future on your strengths. Similarly, into this realization, by focusing on the young families, the new council will unite all citizens around a common theme: ice hockey. It worked. Following a national competition 3 weeks ago, Silver Lake was named Hockey Girl Canada. Congrats, and all the best for turning this accomplishment into a solid economic foundation for the future. So let's ensure that Summerland will rediscover who we are as a community. In my opinion, part of our strategy should ensure that we remain immaculate, not only for tourists, but also for the new citizens. They are profitable industry in their own rights. Thank you.
The next name on the speaker's list is Ryan Grosham, and after that, the next speaker will be Keith Carlson. And just a reminder to speak into the mic closely, please.
My name is Randall Costco. I live at 1473 West Patton Avenue. I've lived there for 22 years. One of the problems that our council has is that they don't really have a plan of what they're going to do if they ever get any money from all the money that they're talking about. And the reason is their growth is they want growth to pay for infrastructure that they have neglected. I want to know who's going to pay for their future, because the money isn't going to be really that great, because you're going to have to build proper roads, sidewalks, sewer systems to it, water, and electricity. That's going to have to be done, and that's going to take most of your money. There's not going to be any left, and then who's going to pay for them that you're trying to get into? One of the other problems is this isn't really an amendment to the OCP. It's a brand new thing. There's nothing amending about it at all. If you look at what happened, what Oliver doing, Oliver is Section C and Oliver itself, they are trying, and they are doing it, to keep agricultural land. And any other that they can put in it, they will put in it. One of the problems too with this so-called land swap we're going to do is when Summer Hills Golf Course was being done, the land was classed as 5 and 6, and this is by what the agricultural land committee agreed was property. Now you're upgrading it to 2 and 3, and it just is not possible. I don't think that you people really have an idea what you're going to do. You don't know what plan you are coming up with, even for the next 10 years, never mind 50. It isn't going to work. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Keith Carlson, and advocate Julie Sardina.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councilors. My name is Keith Carlson, I'm 16218 North Road. Last public meeting, I spoke to you all about some of the world. This time I'm going to give you a 5-minute tour of the world and give you a little bit of agricultural background. Now, in the last 8 months, I visited all of these different countries, and bear with me now. So, in Chile, I was in Patagonia, the area in the far south. First, it was windy, so if you wish to have an orchard, you need a windway. These consist of 5-acre blocks surrounded by 60-foot tall poplar trees. Now, for each 15 acres, is a large lagoon with an overhead frost control system requiring hundreds of gallons per minute of pumping capacity. Fabric windbreaks are then directed every 100 feet away from the wall. When flattening, they need a trellis system to tie cherry trees to, which normally not be any support. It costs upwards of $50,000 to plant one acre. They also pay planting fees plus tree and fruit royalties above garden production. Land is expensive, similar to the Okanagan price, and there are investors lined up for small amounts of decent orchard property. And they all hire Peruvians to work when they find again. In northern Italy, plum variety apples are planted in small 5 to 10 acre blocks. All of the orchards have peel mittens covered them that is attached to the trellis systems. Most have automated most of their operation and are very platform labor intensive. They also pay club fees for planting the valuable pollinating varieties, and they get their workers from North Africa. In England, all the cherries and berries are now being intensively grown in plastic hoop houses or tunnels. In general, a large operation will be less than 30 acres in size. They will have their own packing facilities and pool their marketing resources. They sell all through locally. Planted intensive crop of cherries, it costs £90,000 for each hectare. Converted, that equals $67,000 per acre. Most of them are growing plum varieties, and they are expanding rapidly. Their work is done from Poland. In Turkey, land costs twice as much as the Okanagan. Families have lived on the same property for millennia. They are mostly small block farmers all over the market. The larger farms market thousands of small farm crops throughout the stands, Russia, the EU, and the Middle East. It is the California Mediterranean, and their workers are all Syrians and Afghans. In Argentina, all of the land was given away during the settlement of the country. There is no crown land there. It's hard and expensive to buy land for any reason. In the southern desert, it is even windier in South Chile. They also use all windbreaks, trellises, etc. They bring water in tails for 20 miles to irrigate and protect from frost. Every market they have is about as far as you can go by truck or boat or plane. And they are planting rapidly as well. You can buy land if you have great friends and members. They give their workers from northern Argentina vineyards 3,000 kilometers between years away. In Thailand, orchards of tropical fruit have made poor landowners along the Cambodian borders wealthier. The blocks are small, and government irrigation systems make it the envy of developing nations. They are close to China and export much of their produce there. All of the food they do eat is all local, grown in Thailand. Land is hard to buy, only if you have the right friends are you able to access land.
everyone. My name is Julie Sarina. I live at 8200 Front Bank Road, and I am opposed to this swap. The land in Prairie Valley, which Summerland Council is proposing to swap back into the ALR, was removed for a reason. And that reason was not solely due to the fact that it was necessary for the proposed Summerland Hills development. Those of us who lived here during that time remember the arguments that council made, declaring the land to be of marginal quality and not very suitable for farming. A representative from Urban Connections reported to the Agricultural Advisory Committee on June 2, 2005, stating that the Canada Land Inventory Map identifies the suitability of soils on the lands as Class 5 and 6, not being very good agricultural land, and having a water supply may alter the lands to Class 4 or 5. He stated also that the subclasses on these properties are stony, have adverse topography, and slopes range from 20 to 30% grade. Such reports and council's arguments pertaining to the believed agricultural potential of the land were successful in convincing the ALC to approve council's request for exclusion of the land from the ALR. At the town hall meeting on April 7th, our council implied that the land in Prairie Valley is now much more viable as productive land. They are even saying that it is comparable to the prime flat farmland north of Summerland on which they dream of building houses. Forgive me for being skeptical. The fact that two agribusinesses have expressed interest in this land does not mean that it is ever going to be productive farmland. I have yet to hear interest from anyone who wants to grow food on this land. Also, it makes me wonder, did Summerland Council deceive the ALC in 2005 in order to have the Prairie Valley land removed from the ALR? Or are they trying to deceive the ALC now in order to have these 199 acres removed? If the land in Prairie Valley was removed from the ALR in 2005 under false pretenses, then it should be put back, but not in exchange for 199 acres of prime farmland capable of growing a We do not need the Prairie Valley land for housing. Throughout the years, the citizens of Summerland have made it very clear, time and time again, that we believe in protecting our agricultural land, directing our growth towards downtown infill and hillsides while preserving the flat, productive land. Is it more expensive to develop on hillsides? Of course it is. It has always been much cheaper to develop on flat land, and it always will be. That is why the ALR was created. Productive land with developmental pressure and preserve it for food production in perpetuity. Our council continually points to the fact that 1,300 people participated in their Where We Go From Here consultations. However, what does that number mean? We have no way of knowing how many individuals participated, or what the percentage of those individuals were opposed to the idea of building houses on prime flat farmland. We were never asked the question, do you support the removal of ALR land for development? We were never given the information that we needed to either participate fully or even to make a decision whether or not we were going to participate at all. Our mayor has stated that every Summerland citizen had the chance to participate in the process, and this is true. It's obvious that the majority of our citizens either weren't paying attention or were simply not interested enough to become engaged. However, perhaps more people would have paid attention if Summerland Council had been more forthcoming in what was really being proposed. It's very clear that 199 acres of prime flat farmland was on the table. Instead, the entire process was conducted like an episode of the game show Let's Make a Deal. We were shown 3 doors, but we weren't allowed to know what was behind each one. At this time, I believe it's incumbent upon Summerland Council to recognize the magnitude of the opposition to this law. They need to listen to the citizens of Summerland, table the proposal, and hold a referendum on the issue during the upcoming municipal election. Council should not use the excuse that referendums are only held when they need to borrow money. This issue is too important to our community to hide behind such petty excuses. Council offered the opportunity to all of us to participate in this process, and too many people weren't paying attention, but they've got everyone's attention now.
We have to wrap.
It's just a question of whether council truly wants to know the feelings of the people they represent.
My name is Brian Adams. I live at 670 Beck Street. Born there and lived there far too many years. It's kind of interesting being in this gymnasium because in 1961 I was part of the Rockets who won the Valley Championship. Then we went to the provincials, then we came home. So perhaps what we should be doing here is challenging any one of the councillors to one-on-one don't. Seriously, what has to happen here is that somebody has to change their mind on that table, other than Mr. Waterman. Public hearing, and there was another hearing. There has been obviously an incredible amount of community interest in this particular matter, and I have here a large binder that's getting ready to go off the Agricultural Land Commission if someone doesn't change their mind at that table. And this is 85 letters to various editors from every walk of life in this community. Doctors, lawyers, accountants, real estate agents, developers, business people, and most importantly, young people who are put a lot of effort into trying to convince this council that farms are important and a lot more important than in short-term look at trying to solve economic problems by taking property out of the airline. During the course of the discussions that have been going on, it became clear that Mr. McIntosh, on behalf of our community, had been having a number of meetings with the Agricultural Land Commission, and as a result of that, applications were made pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act to get details. Those applications were made both to the community and to the Agricultural Land Commission to get details of what exactly was going on in those meetings. These meetings commenced in October of 2012, and they continued throughout a period of time when this community was spending a great deal of money on an independent review, which cost us $80,000, when the decision had obviously already been made that we are now talking about tonight. Mayor Perino said, as I understand it at the last meeting, I'm sorry, it was full of food, that election is only about one issue, or it can be about one issue. The election has to be about the issue of whether we trust our elected politicians to look after our money property and to look after the other stuff that we ask them to look after, being our community. We have wasted a whole bunch of money getting a 91-page report together that has been completely flawed. So why should we trust this group to be able to plan 30 to 50 years in the future? Did they plan Warden Street? Did they plan Rattlesnake Mountain? What plan has actually happened? So it doesn't really come down that much to council, because because council takes their direction from staff. And I have a great deal of information here that it be through this disclosure. I can't possibly go through it all. But there's one letter that I would like to read before that red light goes on.
We have about 15 seconds. You might want to save it and come back and speak at the end if you don't mind. Thank you. All right. Next one on our speakers list is Susan Olbertecky. After that, the next speaker will be Gordon Booth.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Susan Olbertecky. I live at 2308 Randall Street. I am going to read a letter that we have prepared from some businesses in Summerland. We, the undersigned, conduct businesses in Summerland. Businesses require support and growth in order to survive. All of us recognize this, and we want to know that we do support growth in Summerland. Retaining and attracting business development to Summerland is an important economic issue. However, we reject the District of Summerland's plan to swap 200 acres of premium farmland for tillage marginal land. We oppose the use of prime ale land for our land growth. We have signed the Stop the Swap petition. Many of those who signed the petition also attended rallies and all of the hearings that have been going on. We are not activists. We are your neighbors, your friends, your community at large, expressing our core values. We value AR land, and we have a responsibility to protect our AR lands for future generations. The risk of losing our food security is just too great. As mayor and councillors, your prime role is to represent the interests of your community, both today and into the future. We are counting on your ability to listen to all parties concerned. We are very concerned with the process in which this law has been conducted. And I'm going to read you the list, and these are just some of the people that signed. Myself, Miss Absentee, Todd Laidlaw, True Grain Bread, Dr. Grant Bentham, Spokes Clinical, Darlene McPherson, Silver Kettle Antiques and Collectibles, Barry and Barry Carter, Summerland Animal Clinic, Michael Stoller, Remax, Orchard Country, Gillian Stoller, Summergate Winery, Dr. Kenneth Rodney, chiropractor, Sue Daniels, registered nutritionist, Ava Hare, Frank Gallery, Ron Clavette and Peggy Cannon, Reese Smoked Meats Diner, James Kidder, Hair by James on Kelly, Barbara Welburn, Welburn Body Works, Denise Blue, Summerland Reflexology and Health Center, Jean Schindler, Cosmos Hairstyling, Lisa and Andrew Burt, Prairie Valley Lodge, Barb Gillespie, Cherry Tree Quilts, Nancy McGinnis, and 5 co-owners of the Carousel. Lisa and Andrew Burt, Prairie Valley Lodge. Andrea Zabo, Giant Smith Realty, Tony Zabo, Widrosman Farm, Dion Bacchus and Catherine Bacchus, Summerland Gold and Silver Exchange, Michaela Bacchus, Stepping Stones Child Care, Tom Johnson, Johnson Goodrich Lawyers, Philip Young, Gordon Fireplace, Grant A. Taylor, Arrow Industries, Stephanie Seaton, Summerland Online, Myrtle Van Dunn, Romancing Wine Tours, Lorinda Dorn, Gas Pipe Aerostats, John Warren, Valley Electric Devices, John Barber, Okanagan Digital Photography, Susan Scott, Indulgences because you deserve them, Mike Sheepcooper, Old School Auto Body, Gil Inglis Enterprises, David W. Cassidy, Cassidy's Upholstery and Design, Daniel K. Lowe, Mobile Legal and Notary Services, Ken Brown Welding and Machine, Elsa Gladman and Ryan Adams, Glen Oak B&B, Neil Carter and Associates, Okanagan Specialty Fruits Incorporated, Blagway Hazelnut Farm, Julian Nigel Blagway, McCormick Contracting, R.B. Keels and Wheels, also known as Summerland Mini Storage, Al Car Storage, Shirley Rudder, Summerland Office Services, Vic and Carrie Martins, Vic Martins Millburn Design Limited, Don Bryce, Wilfred Paranoid, West Trade Consulting Group, Kim and John Stanfield, Valentine Farms, Debbie Johnson, Love Notes, Keith Carlson, Summerland Varieties, Jerry Davis, Breaker State Festivals. I'm submitting this list and I hope you will truly listen to all of us. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me? No. My name is Gordon Booth. I live on Switchback Road, 7515. The road that was paved in 1956. For the first of all time. I had to drive up to Orange Valley to get my horse manure, and I've had a bit of a family going to Gordon Dunstan over the years, who's always in better shape. Garden Valley Road and Switchback Road. On one hand, I think I win because Switchback Road is a disaster. It's not nearly as long as Garden Valley Road, so I have to admit defeat on the other way. My roads are on the face, I guess, because we have 2 new roundabouts and oval roads. And then on things that are not infrastructure that has been previously made that we have to keep up. We keep on doing new things that we don't have the money for. I support the ALC in principle. They have not enough staff and they make mistakes like everybody else does. However, they are trying to save us from ourselves. The thing that I have the most trouble with is that I see at this table 4 counselors and 1 mayor. And I don't understand how it's possible that 2 counselors who have land in this proposal are not here to vote one way or another. They were elected to vote for us on land use issues. Instead, they are not voting, and if this thing goes through, they stand to probably make a fair bit of money. I just don't feel that that's right, and I would like to know from council how it is that this has been allowed. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. And the next name on the list after that is Barbara Thorburn.
Councilors and mayor and everybody else and admin, and happy birthday again. So we've heard over the past months from people of all ages, from their 20s through their 90s, from farmers, teachers, business owners, working people of all professions and trades, students and the retired, real estate developers, homeowners, renters, and politicians. The flavor of most of the speeches and letters, questions and comments has been passionate opposition to removal of ALR land. The content has been informative, relevant, intelligent, and research. We've heard from people who have been involved since the inception of the supposed citizen input process of reconsidering the OCP. We've heard from people who are directly involved as farmers, so experientially and educationally knowledgeable. We've heard from people who have been Summerlanders for generations, and people who moved here because of the lovely orchards, rural atmosphere, and climate. People in Summerland, a largely aged population, are educated with many high incomes. Many are here because of farming. Researchers at the station in Trout Creek and horticulturalists. They pay taxes, they add to the economy, they even create an economy. Summerland has a well-developed system of senior care, creating jobs in both the private and the public sector. People from all these sectors are opposed to removing land from the ALR. The mayor, council, and admin all spoke to its removal, all but Peter, whose statements have been consistently well-researched and to the point, statements that were easily corroborated by research and in agreement with numbers made available even by the admin. The rest of the speakers have spoken to a situation of debt, which has been the result of poor choices made by the city and referred to in some of the letters to the editors. Building on ALR land is how they see solving this problem of indebtedness. Yet there has been no evidence, no figures, no reason to believe it will answer any of Summerland's needs. What will be the result is that a lovely, vital, sustainable place, which has fed the area for generations, will be gone. An area gifted to and preserved for future generations whose sustainability will be gone. The trust we hope to have in our supposed democracy and its elected officials will be gone. Our belief that we, the people, can make a difference will be sorely and disappointingly, disturbingly diminished. This does not need to be the case. The city could stop this ball rolling. The city could listen to its citizens. The city could follow the many pleas and intelligent suggestions to create an economically desirable community which bases its governance on the creation of a caring, healthy, sustainable, honest, law-abiding, artistic, food-producing culture. We have become a divided citizenry. Let's unite to recreate Summerland as a home we can all be proud to be a part of and to live in.
After that, the next speaker will be David Fitz. I'm going to raise my hand a little bit. Just keep ready, please.
Okay, first of all, I'd just like to, the Barker Burger and the 7110 switchback, the Rocky switchback road in Summerland, and that is, what do we say this? That's okay. And I'd also like to say that I've been very impressed with all the presentations so far. Some of what I have to say will be repeated, but that's because it's such great ideas. I'd like to say first to you is happy birthday, and I would like to express my gratitude to all of the farmers here in this room and in Summerland, and thank them for their dedication and for providing food to our community and beyond. I am opposed to the recommended amendments to the official community plan and specifically to the proposed exclusion of the ALR land. For the record, I am not opposed to change or to growth, nor to any goals that support reducing greenhouse gas emissions or that support the economic sustainability of our community. However, I strongly believe that removing prime agricultural land is reckless. It will not achieve the stated goals, and it is not in the best interest of our community now and into the future. Public consultations is a means to facilitate the democratic process. I am concerned that this process was flawed from the start, and I am concerned that there is a perception of self-interest going back to at least 2011 and the Climate Action Plan that recommended trade
regarding the lands in question may have jeopardized the public consultation process, since these decisions about the lands in question occurred during the consultation process and well before the completion of the future growth report. The statement that 10% of the population was involved in the public consultation process, as there were no controls for determining how many unique individuals were included. In addition, I am concerned with the interpretation of the MCA survey results because I believe that they could be perceived as being designed to achieve a pre-planned objective, which is a common complaint of this type of survey. I am uncomfortable with the assertion that building houses will attract new residents and improve our economic situation. Charles Barone, who is an engineer, a town planner, and president of an organization called Strong Towns, says that, in quotes, "The build it and they will come concept is a terrible economic development strategy for small cities. It is a high-stakes gambling of the most reckless kind." I question the assertion that Summerland's economic future is dependent on building houses on agricultural land. According to the Summerland website, the district hopes that housing will create an economic spin-off. I was going to quote the hope sentence of the three hopes, but it's already done. But I can say, how can we bank on hope? Hoping for a miracle is fine, but depending on hope to save our town is irrational. We need evidence-based planning and we need community involvement. We need a municipal government that is willing to listen to all of the community, to consult with the community, and to open itself fully to those of us that they serve. I would like to add a positive outcome of this issue for me is that people from our community have come together to share common concerns and discuss creative ideas about their vision of Summerland's future. I've talked with farmers and educators and lawyers and retired people, and these people have debated passionately, eloquently, and with well-informed reasoning against this proposal. And they have proposed many forward-thinking, progressive ideas about developing a more vibrant, creative, and economically sustainable Summerland. They have researched other agricultural communities that are thriving because these other communities have found ways to retain their agricultural heritage and stimulate their economies. And I think that's all I'll say for tonight. So thank you very much.
And after that, the next name on the list is Kim McDowell, or excuse me, John McDowell.
Thank you. I'm David Dennis, 11217 Paris Road, and Mr. Deputy Mayor Council. And happy birthday, fellow Summerlanders. There's been a lot of, I think, very thoughtful and comments made tonight as they sat on the March the 3rd public hearing. And two of the things from March the 3rd have really been sort of echoing around for me, two of the comments, and one of them was Sandy subdivision. And the other one was when Julie Sardina talked about her late husband Joe and his comment about when do we stop having a fight to save the ALR. How many of us in this room have spent our lunch hours and our evenings and other hours trying to convince you that farmland is important? It is important not just for Summerland, but it is important for our entire province of British Columbia. We need to recognize as a community and as a province the value of preserving a land base for food production, and not just for today, but for generations to come. Today is Earth Day. I find it so ironic that we're holding this public hearing on Earth Day, but here we are. Once again, you have speaker after speaker stand up, and this community stand up and say, no, we do not want good, productive farmland turned into parking lots and subdivisions. This community that we love so much came into being because of agriculture. And I find it really strange that we want to weaken one of the economic drivers Yes, our economy is in difficulty, and yes, there was widespread consensus at the public hearing on the 3rd of March that none of us want a downtown that's full of, boarded up closed stores and for rent signs. But agriculture creates jobs in this community, and wouldn't it be better to work with agriculture? Wouldn't it be better to follow the lead of a community like Hardwick, Vermont, where they created jobs? And if you haven't already done it, I would encourage all of you, everyone else here, to read The Town That Food Saved and learn how a town of 3,000 in Vermont jump-started its economy and redefined its self-image to a local, self-sustaining food system, because it can be done. A few weeks ago, we came here, we sat on the same comfy bleacher seats that we're sitting here tonight, and we heard a lot of interesting information about the state of our local infrastructure, how much it costs to pave 100 meters of roadway and to do a block of sidewalk. And it's all good information. But paving over orchards isn't going to improve things. And it's only going to make it worse. Because as you remove the zinc all our land, you will weaken one of the economic drivers in our town. We've heard that from a number of people that are actually involved in that sector, the jobs, the money that is brought in, the export dollars that come in from around to our community. And I thought that really ironic. I read in the Bennington Herald what you guys would do if you were to open a business in town. And one of the people who has had to recuse himself from this hearing tonight would open an agribusiness. And yet your plan is to reduce the land base by removing over 80 hectares of orchard land and agricultural land reserves. A lot of us tonight have touched on the drought situation in California and the looming impact that's going to have on food prices and the food supply across North America. The submission that I actually emailed in today has links to a couple of those articles that I hope that you will read. And yes, we can still import food from California and elsewhere right now, but as we've heard tonight, that's getting harder and harder to do. There's climate change, there's urbanization, we're losing something like the soccer field a second or something around this world. It's absolutely incredible. So it's up to us, it's up to this community and others in our province to recognize the importance of food security, to preserve farmland, so we've got food for the future, and it just makes good economic sense to buy from your neighbor so they can shop locally, so preserving farmland is a win for all of us. Thank you.
I apologize if I mispronounced that, and standing by for that would be Sheila Polico.
Good evening. Something I've never been accused of is not speaking about it. Okay. My name is John McGrath. I live at room 13-11110 Queensford Road, Sunderland. I'm just going to read the letter that I read at the desk. I'm opposed to land swap. I moved to Summerland 10 years ago as a retiree. I did so in order to live in a small, quiet, rural community, but with the services and convenience of a larger community close by. In recent years, I have witnessed various forlorn attempts by Maparino and Company to turn this community into something it is incapable of becoming. In the same way that local businesses are failing to compete with the shopping opportunities of Penticton, the residential and employment aspects of Summerland cannot compete with Penticton either. Building extravagant police lockups and roundabouts have not and will not attract business, employers or residents to Summerland. These tactics have only served to burden the remaining community with huge unaffordable debt. In another vain attempt to cover the cost of this debt by even more extreme measures is futile. Making any agricultural land available for housing is to be condemned as short-sighted and irrelevant to Summerland's debt crisis. Summerland's future is and always will be dictated by its proximity to Penticton. Give it up. Accept the inevitable.
no matter how unpalatable, and leave the town to evolve the way it was meant to. You cannot fight the natural order. The future is in agriculture, not trying to compete with Benedictine. Thank you.
Standing by after that would be Joel Yates.
Good evening, my name is Sheila Polito. I reside at 8119 Rockland Street in Summerlin. I would like to state for the record that I am opposed to the proposed minutes draft. Good evening, Mayor Perino, councilors, and fellow Summerliners. I recently wrote to each of you as councilors and posed this question. Given the fact that the Agricultural Land Reserve was created in order to preserve and protect farmland for future generations, how can you, with a clear conscience, sacrifice this precious resource that our grandchildren will need to feed themselves? In looking at both the response and the lack of response I have received from various members of council, I am seeing that the issues of food security and climate change are just not being taken seriously. The only reason I can see for this would be a lack of understanding of how grave the situation on our planet truly is. The following is a quote from CBC News from March 31st, 2014. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has recently released a report on the global impact of climate change and what it will mean for society in the future. The findings are based on the work of 309 authors in 70 countries and are billed as a definitive report on the state of knowledge concerning climate change impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability. This is their global predictions. All aspects of food security will be potentially affected by climate change, including food access, utilization, and price stability. Now, these are very sobering statements from a highly respected source that have huge implications. I've emailed you a link to this so you can more fully inform yourselves about the details of this report. I have also sent you a link to the Government of BC's Food Self-Reliance Report, which I hope will also be an inspiration. In a nutshell, what this says is that BC produces less than half of the food it consumes currently. So given the global predictions on food security, we need to make protecting our fine farmland a top priority. I sincerely hope that you will take the time to read these reports before making your final decision. Our planet is already in a state of crisis. I implore you to take the time to fully understand the depth to which climate change is already affecting our food-producing systems. Fully understanding the reality we are facing is the only way to make an informed decision on such a critical issue. And I just want to say personally that I hope one of you will stand up with integrity, at least one of you, and do the right thing. Thank you.
That is Jim Hunt. Joel Yates is up next.
My name is Joel Yates. I live at 6011 Nixon Road, and I am a proud parent of a Summerland secondary graduate. This is an excerpt from a more detailed written submission from my daughter, Drew Yates. She has recently completed a master's degree in soil science. In March, she came up to the last public hearing and did a quick less than 24-hour turnaround on the Greyhound to be at the public hearing, but she can't be here tonight, so I'm reading this on her behalf. And this is what she says. While I commend the District of Summerland for providing more detailed information on the agricultural capacity of the land swap, I was disappointed with the way some of the information was presented at the Town Hall on April 7th. The lack of scale provided on the maps and the use of percentages to represent the agricultural classes without any reference to the actual land area that the percentages represented made the information interpret. The numbers and maps shown were confusing at best and misleading at worst. I have taken the data provided by the District of Summerland at the Town Hall and put it into a different format as a table of information. I unfortunately can't show this table right now to everyone, but it will be made accessible through the Save the Summerland ALR website. I would like to focus on two main points that are demonstrated by this table. One, there is more, better quality agricultural land in the ALR land that is slated for exclusion. The Quinpool/Blair-Bardwell/Cook area contains 192 acres of land that is Class 3 or better, whereas the Prairie Valley West area contains 71 acres of land that is Class 3 or better. This difference in agricultural capability is emphasized by the fact that Quinpool, Blair, and Bardwell Cook area has a smaller land base relative to the Prairie Valley West area. In other words, even though the ALR exclusion land is smaller than the ALR inclusion land, the ALR exclusion land still contains a greater area of better quality agricultural land. Number two, 45% of the land in the Prairie Valley West area is unclassified. Approximately 100 acres of the Prairie Valley West area is unmapped. As a result, a lot of questions remain about the agricultural capability of this area. Unmapped acreage represents land that is transitional between the Prairie Valley floor and the surrounding mountainous ridges, so it is not necessarily equivalent to the surrounding mapped areas. It is currently uncleared ponderosa pine, bunchgrass rangeland. Assessments of the area performed by Talisman Land Resources Consultants Limited in 2005 indicate topographical limitations such as bedrock outcrops, steep-sided gullies, and exposed boulders, which are not present in the downtown area that is slotted for ALR exclusion. These topographical limitations are difficult to improve through management and will therefore decrease the agricultural capability. How can we properly weigh the pros and cons of this proposed ALR inclusion/exclusion with such a gap in information about the agricultural capability information for the land proposed for ALR inclusion? What if the entire unmapped 100 acres turns out to be Class 5 or 6? Will that not factor into the decisions to be made by the District of Summerland as well as the ALC? If 199 acres of Class 2 and 3 ALR land were to be submitted for exclusion from the ALR on its own, it would be very unlikely that the application to the ALC would be approved. It is the proposed inclusion of 226 acres in Prairie Valley West that makes it at all likely for the exclusion of the 199 acres to be considered by the ALC. This is an ALR inclusion that is being used to justify an ALR exclusion. An ALR exclusion which would be very unlikely to be accepted on its own. That is why it is imperative to assess the characteristics of the ALR lands in question.
Can we ask you to wrap your comments up, please?
Okay. It seems Summerland would actually end up with less area of Class 3 or better lands under the proposed OCP amendment, even though the area for inclusion is larger.
The next name on our speakers list is Jim Hunt, and standing by after that is Mary Cernak.
Mayor, Council, Councilors, any possibility in that respect, being a long time.
That's correct.
I moved here, I only had a wife for a couple of weeks too. Someone that's very special to me. And it's just as special today as when we moved here. This is a great community. And I think what makes it so great is that people are really interested. And there's watchdogs in this community. And they're not just going to let things just be passed over. And we're going to hold some things accountable when it needs to happen. I think I've been on every OCP that's ever been adopted in this community since I've been here. I think there's one time, I think the last OCP, there were 3 consultant groups used before we had OCP accepted. Not all consultants have it right. Now, I'm going to speak of one specific thing here. Also, I put a question in a box and went around the last time, not at the hearing, but at the last meeting a couple of weeks ago. And that question has not been answered. In the answered ones and then the unanswered ones. It was not answered. I do not understand it, but it might be a little bit of a hard question, so we're going to go at the end. But it would really be nice to give us some feedback on this type of approach to do it. And it was thought maybe the land swap should be looked at differently. If the pre-nursery business is ready to make a move now, why doesn't the Corporation of Summerland swap its land in Prairie Valley with the pre-nursery on Washington Street land? That may be a 4-to-1 ratio in favor of the nursery. Then some enterprising farmers could grow vegetables for the whole Okanagan Valley 12 months a year. I'm opposed to growing residences in agricultural land reserve land in most cases. It's just, what's happening here is not right for a community like this. We're just fracturing people. That the people I don't think really want to be that way, but we're forcing it to happen. And I just don't think it's right. And hopefully it's not going to go beyond tonight. That this is going to end. Really concerned about this community, and that we have to go this far. It shouldn't happen. We're far better than that. And it's disappointing. And that's all I have to say.
And after that, the next speaker will be Doug Holmes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Murray Soring. I reside at 15819 Lakeshore Drive, Summerland. I am against the removal of the lands from the ALR, but I support development in Summerland. I apologize firstly for the fact that what I'm about to read here is regurgitation from our provincial government, and more importantly, the governing body, Ministry of Community, Sport, and Cultural Development for local governments. They recently released a new guideline entitled Community Amenity Contributions, Balancing Community Planning, Public Benefits, and Housing Affordability. This guideline is appropriate as it addresses the issues Summerland is currently facing under its proposed urban growth strategy plan. The guideline cautions local governments on utilizing community amenity contributions imposed on developers. It states that growth creates demands for new or expanded infrastructure and community amenities, and that those costs are substantial. I'm sure we're all aware of this. In summary, where local governments look to developers to recover the cost of providing infrastructure, that is, upgraded roads, linear One would assume that developers would contribute the cost of such infrastructure amenities. In making this assumption, it is perfectly clear that the developer's costs increase substantially, resulting in housing becoming more unaffordable. If the developer does not bear these costs, then it must be borne by the remaining taxpayers. Existing property taxes will go up. There is a strong relationship between these costs and housing affordability. CACs have the potential to both increase supply of new housing and increase the housing prices. As a result, it's important to realize who ultimately pays for these additional infrastructure costs. The provincial government also cautions that local governments must, number one, should not use rezoning and zoning changes as a revenue source, which this proposal in front of us ultimately is. Two, do not have legal authority to require applicants for rezoning to pay CACs. Three, consider the CAC's development costs on housing affordability, and councils are legally required to remain open-minded on proposed rezoning changes, whether it be direct or indirect, which this change to the OCP is. All of the above points have been contravened by various members of Summerlands Council. We have been told by council and municipal staff that 1, changing the zoning on specific ALR land, we would see new revenue sources. 2, developers would pay for the cost of community amenities. 3, any developed housing coming out of the proposed urban growth strategy would be affordable. And 4, council is open-minded. However, certain members have stated that by not pursuing the proposed urban growth strategy plan put forward, Summerland's demise as a growing, vibrant community will continue. This is not a vote plan. It is readily apparent, given the information provided by council to us, taxpayers, that council are contributing all the important points governing the proposed OCP changes as stipulated by the local governing body, the Ministry of Community, Sport, and Cultural Development. We can revitalize Summerland. Just listen to your electorate. Finally, I would like to say that today is Earth Day, and it's the start of Earth Week in Summerland, which was first started by 2 individuals, strong volunteers in this community, Margaret Horner and Margaret Horner. This is the only ecological week of events in Canada, which also promotes food sustainability. So we should all be proud of all of our volunteers. Thank you. Thank you.
After that, next speaker will be Roxanne Clay.
My name is Doug Holmes. I live at 14812 Downtown. I met John McLean, someone that at first I had no strong opinion of the proposed urban strategy. I could accept the principle of growing out from the core, but I had difficulty with the idea of removing lands from the ALR. After listening intently to both sides of the argument over the past month or so, I've come to the conclusion that the proposed on this law is not the best approach for someone to take at this time. Here are my reasons. One of the rationales for putting future growth close to the core is to revitalize downtown and help out local businesses. This rationale requires a certain leap in logic, and as you acknowledged, the growth strategy is not an effort to help downtown right now. This is a separate undertaking. I agree with that, and I would further suggest that downtown revitalization strategy is a more urgent need. Such a strategy should include residential redevelopment and densification in the downtown area, which in turn will impact the subsequent urban growth strategy. The densification of existing neighborhoods is as valid a principle as growing up from the core, and it makes more sense than creating entirely new neighborhoods from scratch. We've indicated Summerland has about 5 years' worth of infill development, and we are attempting to formulate a strategy to take that further into the future. I Again, such a strategy should be a priority and can also impact the growth strategy. You say the district cannot affect land it doesn't own, and it's market driven. Currently, land values do not support demolition and reconstruction of existing lots. The prospect of hundreds of new lots coming onto the market through rezoning would make infill an even less attractive proposition, with the densification of downtown and other neighborhoods even less likely to happen. At the town hall meeting, the mayor spoke glowingly of Lake Country's 35% growth in recent years. The proposed growth strategy rezones enough land as residential to allow for that kind of growth during summer. I find that scary scenario, huge transformation of Summerland into a different community, and any gains in tax revenue will be offset with either higher costs of providing public services or a decline in quality of the services. Having only 5 years' worth of land available for development is fine with me, and ensures slow, steady growth that the community can afford. A response to a question from the town hall meeting said more new lots means more competition. If lots can be developed more inexpensively and there's competition, then it's more likely that property prices will be lower. I'm sorry, this may sound selfish, but I don't want lower property prices. Like many of us, my home is the primary asset. It's my financial security in old age. With this growth strategy, all these new properties will come onto the market, and value of my home will drop right at the point of my retirement when I'm ready to sell. Absolutely, some land could use more affordable housing for lower income families, but the growth strategy doesn't really provide for this. Developers who are rezoning LR lands are as likely to build expensive mansions as they are less profitable low-cost housing. As we've heard, agriculture is sometimes hard to solve as economic issue. Removing good farming land from the LR will ultimately weaken the town's character and its local economy. If we need proof of that, then there's no further than dirty laundry, not being able to expand now and want to because the land they want isn't designated as agriculture. Let's not make that mistake again. If this plan is for 30 to 50 years from now, then it can wait. Let's shelve it and dust it off in 10 or 20 years' time if necessary. Let's not act in case the tire to By all means, we change the OCP. Let's say future housing should be realized to reduce densification and infill existing neighborhoods, including downtown. Let's make that happen. And let the OCP bring Prairie Valley back into the LR so that interested parties can get on with their business plan. But let's not take land out of the neighborhood. Can you imagine all the attention Sutherland would get if we did this? If you went to the ALC and said, we want to add land into the LR, you couldn't buy that kind of positive publicity for the community.
After that, the next speaker will be John Barker.
Good evening. I'm Roxanne Place, and I live at 6506 Harris Crescent, Summerland. I wish to make 2 comments to the council and the mayor. My understanding of economics and a successful business is that you have products or services that people want to buy. They want to buy. And if you carry products and services that people no longer wish to buy, your business will fail. That's my understanding. from Spain, oranges from Africa. It's not going to be happening. It's an arrogance to believe that as things are today is the way they will always be. And I would like to bring to your attention that the area called Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, down to the Texas Panhandle, that middle part of North America was one of the last places in North America that human beings went to live. And the reason is that over the last 50,000 years, that area regularly goes through up to 1,000-year droughts. 1,000-year droughts. Just because people live there now doesn't mean the world is going to change what it does. We see what's happening now. All those people taking that water in the middle of North America in the midst of the beginning of a drought. That's the future. In 30 to 50 years, we're not going to be dealing with how you're homeless. We're going to be dealing with, can we feed the people who are here? That's sustainability. It is all about food security. We are very privileged. But the truth is, we're in a bubble. And unless you haven't read the news or looked on the TV or wherever you get your information from, even the worst medias, Fox News, is starting to use the words food security. It's appearing regularly, and they're talking about the fact that in the States, they're having trouble getting fruits and vegetables to more than 35% of their population. You don't think that this land that they're trying to build on isn't as precious as that? It's going to be a matter of sustainability for food, nothing else.
Next on our student list is John Barber. After that, the next speaker will be John Bevan.
Hello, loud enough? I am opposed to excluding prime farmland from the ALR. Following the disgraceful format of the town hall meeting on April 7th, I have a hard time addressing council that has shown no willingness to respond to the outcry of the citizens. When I confronted our mayor and a couple of council members and expressed my displeasure at having to submit questions on passionless pieces of paper, I was told that this is perfectly legal. We checked. One must wonder, why spend more of our tax dollars on legal counsel if the intent wasn't to suppress some of the outcry and eliminate media soundbites? Which leads to another question. How many opportunities for smart, sustainable economic growth have been lost due to the time, energy, and tax dollars wasted in this urban growth strategy debacle? I'm a self-employed entrepreneur, and I know I've had to sacrifice time that I could have used towards earning an income and growing my business, but instead I've had to get sidetracked on what should be a no-brainer. The lands proposed to be excluded from the ALR are sacred lands. The ALC is and was established for exactly this type of situation, where economic pressures give temptation to sacrifice farmland for development. At any rate, I believe this urban growth strategy has evolved into a weak attempt at justifying the wasted tax dollars in time and energy of council and municipal staff. A clear example of this is the opportunity all of council had to promote Summerland positively in the public eye in the April 14th issue of the Penticton Herald. The question was posed, if you were to start a business in Summerland, what would it need?
Several councillors chose to use the opportunity to justify this urban growth strategy, propagate negativity, and or criticize decisions of previous councillors. Potential investors, businesses, or speculators ran in the opposite direction after reading some of that. Interesting though, that 4 out of 7 at least mentioned agriculture as potential business opportunities. As someone who is actively trying to convince others to oppose the swap, I must at least thank this council for making that job a lot easier. I am opposed to excluding prime farmland from the ALR. In the March 6, 2014 message from the ALC chair, Richard Bullock states, "The ALC will focus on applications from farmers and ranchers that are related to the business of agriculture, approximately 5% of applications received, and less on applications from developers, speculators, and those who simply wish to do something in agriculture in the ALR, which is approximately 95% of applications received." I believe this bodes well for those of us who know the true value of this land, but I urge all of you, if you haven't yet written to the ALC and voiced your opposition, now is the time to do so. If you need any assistance with their contact info, I would be happy to help, and others here tonight I'm sure would be willing to assist you also. I am opposed to excluding prime farmland from the ALR. 2 councillors have been absent from the discussions and meetings related to this issue as they hold interest in the land. I must question why Mountain View Growers has not also been asked to exclude themselves. I mean no disrespect. Mountain View Growers is a local business employing local people, generating dollars that circulate through this community. That is commendable. However, as they own land that is proposed to be excluded, they stand to gain financially by this proposed exclusion. One would certainly appraise any of their statements regarding opinion. But even with that aside, in my opinion, it is even more important to recognize that their agricultural operation grows none of its product in the ground. The quality of the lands to be swapped are of little or no significance to them. Dirty Laundry may very well be able to farm questionable land in Prairie Valley, but what happens when the grain market gets saturated?
Certainly, yes.
Some are saying it's near that now, and if we possibly need to grow something else like food, good luck with that.
Certainly, as you wrap your comments up, please, 5 minutes up, you're welcome to sign up and speak again when a few other people speak. Is John Bevan. After that, the next speaker will be Glenn Jones.
Thank you. My name is John Bevan. I live at 6614 Switchback Pothole. I'd just like to say that I heard some tremendous stuff here tonight. There were some exceptionally good and talented people, and I applaud you. Somehow in my life, I was kind of a more basic approach. If my neighbor comes to me and offers to trade me his mule for my new Ford tractor, and I take that deal, I've been had. And if the council goes through with this swap, the people who've been had in that deal are the residents of Summerlin. Thank you.
Glenn Jones. After that, we'll hear from Ashley Jessup.
Glenn Jones, 71105. I said I can't really add anything. All great speeches that I heard tonight. So I don't really have anything else to say, but I did want to register my opposition to the government swap. Thank you.
Justin. After that, the next speaker will be Susan Weber.
Hi, my name is Ashley Benson. I live on 8200 Princeton
like he knew it was a big deal for moving here. The community is beautiful. I have a few points. A lot of them deal with my mother telling me I'm a dreamer. And a 50-year plan is, I think she hears a new 50-year plan for me in my life probably once a week. And I probably can't recall what I was going to do last week and the week before, but it changes every week. So the only thing I remember about this is a story that we read about in Trundle, Australia. Before we moved here, we were looking for a place in the world to go. And there was a lot of places on the list, but we wanted to make a change for the better. And go where people needed us. So this one place came up, Trundle, Australia. They put an ad out on the internet saying, anybody in the world, if they want to move their family here, you can rent a house for $1 a month if you'll populate our schools and bring trades in and become farmers, because they had so much drought and all their farmers left. So their town was 0. I think their elementary school had 4 people in it, and it was dying, and they did a last-ditch attempt to get people there. And so we applied and got a letter back saying we didn't have enough kids. They wanted bigger families, I guess, to go there with younger kids immediately, not just families that want to start kids for the future. So they needed to change right then, and since then, nothing has changed. A lot of families have left, and their goal of repopulating didn't work, but it was their last attempt to repopulate their town and become a farming town again. So that was interesting. Trundle, Australia. It's a really big story. I have a list of points. You guys have mentioned so many great points. I don't want to repeat that. I want to go to bed because I work at 6. Oh, we need a garage sale pole. The roundabout is beautiful, but there's no more garage sale pole. And Armada's having a garage sale day this Saturday. I think we should have a garage sale day in Summerlands and get more people here, preferably on a Tuesday, so you can populate our farmers market even better. Bring some people. Give me a second to remember this. There's been a lot of talk on the news about the whole BC on CD. I was in the CDC at work about 8 hours a day. I work at Summerland greenhouses, and all we do is plant and listen to CDC all the time. It's a wonderful place to get your news, and I never thought my age would listen to CDC that much. It's great. But there's a lot of talk about ALR in the news province live right now, and they're talking about removing it from the Lower Mainland. I don't think there's any need for that. I think we should keep our ALR here and maybe create this town, be the place where you can come and be like Guelph, Ontario, be the place, the name that everybody remembers, Summerland, because you come here, not worry about anything changing, just leave it the way it is. There's so much.
Thank you very much. Next name on the speaker list is Susan Wicker. After that, the next speaker will be Sharon and Siri.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I just can you hear me all right? I just like to say good evening to everybody, and just to say that this evening is a new invitation for me. I'm not an expert in any area per se, but I used to be in the community. I grew up here, went to school here, left with the Royal Province, and then decided to move back here to retire. I'm not going to speak to any very concept of we should leave this place the way it is. That's not possible. It's not realistic. I will say that I'm against this swap. I think it is appallingly short-sighted. I think that some words have been used here tonight that I can repeat. One is reckless. Somebody said that promised sidewalks being dead. Nothing happened in that subdivision until about 6 years after we left. It was kind of nice to have the prairie grass outside your front door, except that you were from wildfire. I think the whole concept of building it will come. It came from a movie, I think it was called Field of Dreams. All sarcasm aside, I think that there's some points that you have to consider that you don't seem to have considered. The impact of drought on rivers to the south. We have a resource here where we can build a barrier and remedy that for our community and for other people. As I said before, build it and it will come. Pretty short-sighted, very foolish, and that's an understatement. We've heard a lot of very reasonable people here tonight, very well-educated people. I think some of them feel very angry about this, but they have been polite and reasoned, and they have backed their passion with facts that I think probably have been overlooked or not weighed carefully enough. I think the whole process that we're going through here now shows a lack of respect for our farming community. That's where they came to my mind. This is a lack of respect for our farmers. We have two large areas downtown currently. One over by the police station where it was and the Wharton Street project. Step back from this plan. 5 months is nothing when you're looking at 50 years. The Squaw development was just put forward. Will that not take away from the folks who are supposedly going to come when we build this subdivision? And lastly, I think there was a major development today on the agricultural scene when the farmers in this province have backed away from supporting a two-tier project as far as rethinking the use of farmland. Let's take that into account before we decide. I hope that we take all of the comments and be serious, well-educated, thoughtful people who have talked to you this evening go away and make the right decision. Because if you don't, I feel very sad and I'm in despair. Thank you.
And after that, next speaker will be John Dorner.
Hello, I'm Sharon Messer. I'm from 4416 Williams Avenue, down in Turk Creek. I didn't plan to speak tonight. So many people have spoken and they said so many important things. But there's one thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is this issue is polarized. It is. I wish my council was a little bit more on the fence though. I wish I felt when I heard it on the radio speaking about it that you were considering all options. I heard Don Gaten say earlier that, maybe this is a done deal right up. That's really, really hard when I'm hoping that you're representing us. I'm hoping that we have a chance to have some information to bring to the table. And so then I started thinking, well, how do you get out of a polarized situation? How do you break that hole? We've got these two positions, but I'm asking you to consider there's probably some information that you heard tonight, probably some information you've read in some of these letters, and some of that information might put a question in your mind. And as soon as you have a question in your mind, you're no longer at one of those polar endpoints. You're on the fence. Once you're on the fence, you can make a more reasonable decision. And that's what I'm asking council to consider. Having someone come in to speak about trees that could be grown in boxes on the land, well, I don't know that that was necessarily appropriate. I agree. I'm a biology professor, and for a hobby, I sometimes teach viticulture. So I know a little bit about growing grapes, and to sort of sum it up, we try and make them visible. Like, we're really trying to bonsai grapes. We're not trying to give them good soil. So I don't know if it's a really good, resounding applause for the soil quality of saying grows grapes. That's sort of against the point. It's supposed to make them miserable. So what we've got here are some very good soil comments from people who have better education in that area than mine, to say the soil is problematical. I think we can all agree there. If that's the way in, take hold of it, get back on the fence and take a reasonable position, consider all the options. Perhaps when you're on the fence, it'll be a farm fence, maybe, I don't know, maybe something will change. But I don't feel comfortable coming to this meeting or listening to the radio and having comments said that we just don't understand. Because I think we actually do. I think a lot of us really pay attention. But I really like to hear that my council is taking reasonable consideration of the things we're saying and not going from a position where they've been and are staying.
And after that, the next speaker will be Steve Brown.
John Dorn, 5703 Gartrell Road. I'm against the proposed OCP amendment. The one speaker this evening who spoke in favor of the land swap was unable to change my mind. First of all, I'm a member of a special interest group, a taxpayer of Summerland that wants prosperity for our district. And I'm very thankful that there's hundreds of other members of this group that have come out this evening and for the other meetings so far this year, because it is important. Despite being unelected, I hope that council will listen to my thoughts. I had a prepared speech tonight, but I thought I'd speak about something that I know a little bit about. In 2012, I was president of the Summerland Legion. And at that time, the Legion was going through a serious decline in membership. We had decreasing revenues, and it looked like the Legion was in trouble. So the thought was that we would sell the Legion building on Rosedale and develop the Legion Village land to include social housing for seniors and social housing, social affordable housing. We were given $10,000 by DC Housing to do a needs and demand study. Now, the executive of the Legion wasn't too bright because we didn't tell the consultant the results of the report that we wanted. And surprisingly, the needs and demand study, and I'll mention that a copy of this study was given to staff in 2012. And the result of the needs and demand study would be that it would be imprudent financially for the Legion to redevelop the Legion Village property, just because there was not enough demand for housing in Summerland, and there was too many available houses on the market, and it would be imprudent for the Legion to go ahead. Now that was only in 2012, and I can't imagine that the economic outlook in town has changed that much. So the idea of putting 89 hectares of what I would call cheap developable land on the market is not a good idea. And I use that word cheap very carefully, because it is cheap because no one has really added the value of that land as good agricultural land. And, you know, cheap is not necessarily inexpensive, and cheap is rarely a good option. And I think that's the road that we're going down right now, is the road of one fork is going over, is the road that's paved over agricultural land. And the other fork is something that I think council has to consider. We don't know what that road leads to, but we can have that road going over agricultural land, and I think it's up to council to listen to all of the people that were spoken at the last 2 public meetings, that Summerlanders don't want to go down the road that destroys agricultural land. They want to go down a different road, and we look upon council to lead the town to prosperity along that other road. Thank you.
Steve Brown. After that, the next speaker will be John Barber.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to speak then. My name is Steve Brown, and I live at 7603 Happy Valley Road, 15 acre Appleton Road. As a horticultural consultant for the BC Tree Fruits Co-op, I was employed with someone here to probably talk to you for about 2 hours on the viability of both properties. As I think I can probably safely say that I've taken more soil samples in Summerland than anyone in this room. But I can do that if you would like, we don't have time. I can safely say that the lands are not comparable. Because I've taken a lot of samples close to both locations. As in fact, some in those particular locations themselves. I was driving to Kelowna to pick up my wife's brother the last week, and drove through West Bank. And I think that was a pretty good example of what's possibly going to happen in this situation. And I'll tell you what it is. I drove through the old town of West Bank, and if you're familiar with it, there's a lot of businesses that are dying. And then I looked up on the hillside and I saw hundreds and hundreds of new houses. And I was thinking to myself, how is that possible? How is it possible? There's all this new development, and yet those businesses are still not doing very well. And I think the answer is, of course, and I'm sure many other people pointed it out, things are changing. People buy a lot more things online these days. And they shop probably more at big box stores. I don't necessarily think that having more houses in the general vicinity, even of the shops, is necessarily going to improve the viability. I guess I have one question tonight that I'm really concerned about, and that is, when is this expansion into ALR land going to stop? I guess if you could guarantee me tonight and say, yeah, you know what, Steve, this is the last 200 acres that we're going to take out in this really good area, and we'll promise that we'll never ever take out agricultural land again, because we know it's important. I would maybe say, okay. But the problem is, I know you can't do that, because there'll be council members that are coming along down the road that get elected in years to come. And so I'm quite frankly kind of scared about that, because we may take out some land, and then the next council may take out a little bit more land. Oh, we need another 50 acres here to round us off, or whatever. And that's just a freight train that I'm not really willing to hop on. So agricultural was what started this town and what sustained it for many years, and I hope what will sustain this town for many years to come. Now, I agree that the due process should take place with any big decision such as this. So I appreciate you having these meetings. And honoring rules and values, such as respecting others, maybe even by no clapping or booing, etc., should take place every day. But those values should also be practiced by our council members, and those people are you guys. Right? Now, with the outcry of all our neighbors here, it is clear that the ALR land should not be removed in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. Farmland feeds our people and employs our people long term. I just don't think houses do the same thing.
After that, the next speaker will be Darcy Ingram.
Or two.
Sorry, I didn't say my name before the spoke last time. It's John Barber, 9103 Kennedy Road. I'm opposed to the student farmland in the water. The issue of declining high school enrollment, as was repeatedly stated by Mayor Bruno at the town hall meeting, is a non-issue and a blatant attempt at fear-mongering. Despite declining enrollment in schools everywhere due to demographics, numbers are up at Giants Head and Trout Creek. But I guess our mayor figures that students will go directly to college and bypass secondary. It was pointed out at the town hall meeting as to when a referendum legally has to be called. This does not mean that there is any law preventing a referendum at any other time. The rebuttal that council makes decisions all the time and we can't hold a referendum on every issue of contention is, in my opinion, weak and a failed attempt to skirt the issue. I don't claim to know the opinion of the whole community, but if we allow the democratic process to be utilized, I'm willing to live with the result. To allow this fall's municipal election to be decided on one issue is a misuse of the democratic process. As our elected leaders, yes, council has to show diligence in making decisions, but they must also recognize and listen when the citizens that elected them are speaking out in opposition to proposals that affect the future of everyone in this community. The proposal to exclude land from the ALR was not on the platform of any of our elected officials, and they have no right to oppose it now. I am opposed to excluding prime farmland from the ALR. Mayor and council have stated that we cannot afford to develop the Prairie Valley lands. Maybe we can. Or maybe we just can't afford it right now. Capital expenditures from the past, I believe, are the factors that dictate this, though, not economic wisdom for the future. You said the Summerland Hills Golf Project was gone. Okay, but there was some interest there. Perhaps there's a way to generate more interest there in the future. Maybe a golf course, maybe another destination type concept that will make the cost of services and infrastructure more attractive and affordable. The sooner we stop wasting time on the issue of removing prime farmland from the ALR, the sooner we can get to work on that. Lastly, this issue comes down to value. If you only see short-term dollars, you will never appreciate the value of this land proposed to be excluded. That value is one that many Summerlanders know. It's why we came here. It's why we stay here. Take it away, and you create the very situation that many of us chose Summerland to get away from. Political and financial gain over common sense values. I am opposed to excluding prime farmland from the ALR.
Darcy Ingram. After that, the next speaker will be Aaron Gould.
Good evening, everyone. I hadn't planned on speaking tonight, but I can't help myself. My name is Darcy Ingram. I live at 9400 Cedar Avenue in the heart of that beautiful industrial section of town, just kitty corner from the municipal yard. Now, I'm a 1983 graduate of Summerland Secondary School, and I haven't lived here very long. I've lived here for approximately 16 months, and 12 of those have been unemployed. It's not because I don't have skills, it's not because I don't have an education. As a matter of fact, I am not a mathematician. Math is the reason that I'm moving next week to pursue my master's in English. But my math skills are such that I can see that there are 10 people on this side of the room, and these bleachers were full. there are 3,000 people on the petition. That means that every single one of those people on that other side of the room has 30 people who are opposed to this proposal sitting on their shoulders. And I would ask you all, whether you can or are involved in the decision-making process or not, to please remember that you are representing at least 30 other people in this community, and possibly, if it's only just the 5 of you, 60 each. Please. 600? See, I'm not a mathematician. However, I do know what now is. Now, as far as growth for this community goes, in the last 16 months, I have noticed that the vacancy rate on your main streets have escalated, and there are approximately 16 empty spaces now. I plan to come back here in 2 years with my master's in English and do something in this town, because I like this town, because it's beautiful and small and green, and as a cancer survivor who only has one lung left, I want clean air. You have had community members here who range in age from high school students right through to people who are in the peak of their early career years, right up to senior citizens here. This is not an isolated argument. I beseech you to please listen to those people who have voted you into power and represent them with honor, represent them with conscience, and represent them with integrity. If these people in your community do not want this proposal to go through, please listen to them. Because terms in office are short, but the community members are here for good. One man stood here and he said he's lived at the same address for his entire life. This is a rare community that you have here. This is BC at its best. And to come to a place like Summerland, which is well known for being agricultural, don't throw away the agricultural land that has made this community what it is. The opportunities here are for agriculture. Not everybody is going to be a winery. Not everybody is going to be a business person. Not everybody is going to be a mathematician or an English major. You have a whole community to represent here, and I beseech you to do this with wisdom and integrity. Think. Arm yourself with information and think before you cast your vote. You have all these people who are relying on you. Please do the job they have voted you in to do. Thank you.
Just to clarify your math, I'm the moderator, so I don't count on the 10. I'm a little high here. All right, the next name on the speaker list is Aaron Yula. The next speaker after that, who may be the final speaker, unless anybody else signs up, is Mike Caller. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Erin Dula. I live at 1692 Gilmore Street. I'm a third-generation Summerlander, daughter of a farmer and aspiring RMTE. I actually didn't sign this meet tonight because I was too tired after work every day to put something together. in zone 2, and thankfully the Okanagan is not being affected by that. But I think that we should be thinking about how, you know, our local struggle is embedded in something much larger than us. And I think that it has been noted tonight that, you know, crying out to protect the pharmacy ALR might never end, and when is it going to end? But I think that we need to look at this attack that's happening from the provincial government, and take that a bit more seriously and think of ourselves as within that as well. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of formally state my opposition to this land swap, and also kind of put it in your ear to think about ourselves and that it doesn't more global phenomenon.
Name on the speaker list is Mike Pollard.
Madam Mayor, Council, friends, neighbors. It's actually pretty cool to get it going. First, or almost near the front, because you get to speak and everybody listens to you because one number is that they haven't heard time and time again the same mantra that continues to come up, whether it's right or not. I really appreciate something step out tonight, because the other thing it does is it gives the opportunity to listen to everybody the whole way through and see if you pick relevant points that either be missed or understated. We've heard a lot of poor quality infrastructure in this community. We have wonderful roads like Switchback and Grand Valley Road. There's lots of around here. Those problems weren't just created today. They're historical problems that mostly were built or were created by time and poor construction quality at the time. At the last meeting, there was a lot of talk about cost of infrastructure and extending infrastructure into the hills. And I understand that there is, that the community is sensitive to cost. And I understand that we do have all sorts of infrastructure issues. But almost none of those are in new construction. New construction is a much higher standard. It's a much higher standard than it was 20, 25 years ago. Any new products we would build in those hills wouldn't come back to haunt us. We already have costs. Every one of those new roads or those roads that are existing have to be plowed in, they have to be maintained. If we allow that new development in the hills, it will be built to a standard that isn't going to come by us. It isn't going to have those big costs that we associate with all the monetary problems we have. I would like everybody, council, and the community to understand that it's not a bad thing to develop in the hills. We talk about greenhouse gases. Well, there's already technology you can pop in a little electric car to charge yourself from all the way down the hill and run it all the way back on the same charge, but actually using any energy. Hills are actually pretty cool for that because you can actually generate energy as you're going. New vehicles we have, many of them have phenomenal fuel. We're not generating the same historical greenhouse gases that we used to. So to make decisions, especially on something as important as farming, and say that we need to go from the inside out because that was the status quo. Well, guess what, guys? The world's changed. Some things become more important. Food has become more important, maybe even greenhouse gas. I can tell you what, you can't eat greenhouse gas. It's going to be there is trade-offs in life everywhere. And I think everybody has to understand that we are a community that is different than most. Physically, and if you look at this community, I think we're a community that is different just because here voicing their concerns may not occur in other communities. I'm proud to be from Summerland. I'm proud of where we are. I'm proud of where we are in the state, other than, I don't think that either broke. I'm sure nobody else here does either. There is ways out of this mess. And as many people have stated, let's start looking at alternatives, because I've never heard an alternative from that table. I don't think anybody's addressing it. You need a proper exit strategy to every endeavor you get involved in. And so please look for one. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We have no further news on the list. At this point, I will turn the meeting over to our chair, Mayor Janice Bruno. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? For a second time, is there anyone else who'd like to speak? And a third and final time, no, we've got more speakers. And I think, I'm just going to ask you to give us your name, Mr. Michael. I'm not sure your first name and address, please. I need your name and address. I know you were one of our first speakers, so I've got that part. Address. I know you were one of our first speakers, so I've got that part. Give us your full name and address.
My name is Oscar Sveno. I live in Thompson Road in Summerland. I lived here since 51 in Summerland. And I've been started since then. I'm working with Deacon as a second job. If anybody thinks that farming is so great, they're just blowing hot air. And there is more you don't know how much about this land. If I would tell you from what the land comes from, you wouldn't believe me at all. And I will tell you the truth. And that's what we determine to be. For instance, they call us farmers. They bought the land and they made us produce so many $1,000 worth of fruit. And if I don't produce, they will double my taxes. So I'm automatically put this claim that I have to produce so much $10,000. So what are the business people in Summerland or in Benedict? They would call us farmers because the government fixes they think that we have to produce so much. So we are not farmers, we are business people.
Sir, can we ask you to speak into the microphone, please?
Pardon?
Can we ask you to speak into the microphone? Okay, thank you.
So we are business people. The city people, if they can't make any business, they can close shop, they're not penalized. And they can live there. We are penalized, we are driven out of business right there, the taxes. And if you take, for instance, what happens, people don't know nothing about farming, they just know how to talk. They just talk. Like, for instance, the people of even farming. I don't know why you put it, it says that Ambrosia brings so much money in. That doesn't mean, that we didn't do that before, in the 70s and 60s. They take away from one variety and add the money to some variety they promote. So everybody promotes those samples from the bottom cost. Then they pick on some other variety and take away from some other apples, some percent, and add to this they promote varieties. So Ambrosia. If I go buy Ambrosia, they're all the same price, 99 cents a pound. Goes all over any place. So they steal the money from other varieties and add to Ambrosia. Pretty soon they're coming out with another two varieties. They're going to promote it, they're going to take away from Ambrosia and add to this other variety. my sites. For instance, this traveling man control bit, that's all hot air. I can prove it. If you want to come down to my place in the summer, I can prove it to you that they actually grow those traveling mans. They don't get rid of it. And my life, I've never had so many traveling mans than I have. My mortality was 5% all those years I grew apples. 5%. Now I have a grown, it's 40%, 50% apples. I can pick when a dozen apple trees. 5 gallon pails full of apple nuts. And I figured I could pick 5 bins of cotton nuts at my place this last year. So many cotton nuts. He used to have natural predators like the swallows. They live actually on those parts. These days there is no more swallows because they all get poisoned.
Mr. Trevor, we're going to ask you to wrap up. Your time is up to an end of the microphone. We're going to invite another speaker up because we have one more name on the list. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
We have one more name on the list at the moment, and that is Sandra Johnson.
My name is Sandra Johnson, and I live in 401 Highway 40, and I live in a deep in but no, I live this now. This is just a little story that kind of reminds me of myself. And we used to live in Vancouver, and we had a beach place, everyone was there, and we well. And we drove all of these agricultural lands, and it was grain growing, we got to learn what was wheat, what was barley. It was beautiful. And then things changed, and people didn't farm very much anymore. Then there